Hey everybody, and welcome to another Cricut Craft tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel by hitting that big red subscribe button down below. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this really fun felt flower wreath with a fun ring from Michaels for under $15. I love that you can make so many things at Michaels with very little money. It is such an affordable place to shop. So let's get started so I can show you guys how to make this. The first thing that we're going to grab is the metal ring that we need, and this is only $3.19, but it does come in a couple of different sizes. Then I'm also going to pick up some Fabric Fusion glue. This is not a necessity, but this is $3.99. You can actually do this cheaper if you don't need the glue. And last but not least, I'm getting felt. The felt was anywhere between 39 cents and 49 cents, and I got 3 sheets of 4 different colors. I got green, blue, purple, and then a bright pink. You can use any colors that you want, and because this is such an inexpensive project, you can add even more felt and still keep it within that $15 budget if you don't need to get the glue. I do recommend the hot melt glue method, but the Fabric Fusion is an option if that's something that you want to try. Michaels is a great place to find lots of affordable crafts, and this was a fun one, and I'm excited that we are going to make this with our different felt colors. Starting in Design Space, we're going to upload the templates for the rolled flowers that we're going to use. So I'm going to click Upload Image and then click Browse. Now I save these into my paper crafting folder because technically they are for paper flowers, but I like to use them for felt flowers as well. They work just fine. So what you'll do is you want to upload the SVG document, which in some computers, and actually most, it'll show as an HTML document. A lot of people find that they think that they didn't receive the SVG, but you did. It just shows as an HTML document. Select that, and the way the designer did this file, I don't love it. So your Design Space is going to tell you that the pattern fills aren't supported. Just click Continue, and don't worry, we're going to get rid of this box and this writing. Again, it's just the way the designer made it. I'm not a fan, but the flowers are great. So what we'll do now is click Upload. And once it inserts, you're just going to select it and click Insert Images. Once it inserts onto our canvas, we are going to need to ungroup it to get rid of the square and the writing. So just click Ungroup, select the square and the writing, and just go ahead and delete them. Now we have all of these flowers that we can choose from. So what I like to do is I just sort of go through and figure out which ones I don't like first, and then I just go from there. So I just sort of narrow it down, and as I narrow it down, I move them a little closer together. And so these ones all have rounded edges to their leaves, and these are spiky. I definitely want to keep this one, and I don't think, I definitely want to keep that one. That one's really cool when you roll it. This one I think is not going to be great. It's going to be kind of small for a felt flower, so we'll get rid of that one. And I think I don't like how close the scallops are on that one, and I think I'd rather keep this one, and we'll do these ones are great. These will work. So I want to do 3 different colored flowers. Now I will tell you right now that I'm going to probably color these wrong because I accidentally recorded this without sound, and voicing over this part's really hard, but you'll get the same general idea of how to do this, and your flowers can be totally different than my flowers. So I'm going to select 2 flowers, and I'm just going to make them purple. Select 2 other flowers and make them pink. And then select 2 more and make them blue because we have these 3 colors to work with. Now, obviously, these are really, really small. You can see how tiny they are. They're only about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So what I want to do is take the widest part, and I'm going to make it 8.5 because our felt sheets are going to be 8.5 by 12. So you can kind of mess with the sizing a little bit. Like, let's say I want to do that one in that size. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll actually do that. That'll fit on the felt very well. So I just want to make them all about 8.5. That seemed to be a good size to work with these. And they came out just about the right size. So I'm just going to change everything over here to 8.5. And I'm just using the width on them, but you can use the height if you'd rather. It's up to you. It's up to how big you really want them to go, but I wouldn't go bigger than 8.5 because it is hard to fit them on to your felt. So all I'm just going to do is 8.5, and then I'm going to change 8.5. That one looks pretty good. I'm just going to kind of double check their sizing really quick because I do think I maybe want to switch one of them. Yeah, this one. I want to change that one down to 8.5. I think he's going to fit better. And that one will fit good. And that one. Okay, so we've got all of our flowers, but we do need to make some little circles to fit behind the flowers to help them hold on to the wreath. So all I'm going to do is open up a shape and just open up a circle. Now, the first time I did this, I cut them a little bit big. So I would recommend doing maybe about a 1.5-inch circle. That should be plenty of space for you, but we need to have one for every flower. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now there is this weird little dot and I don't know where it came from or what it goes to, but we don't need it. So just make sure you check that and delete it. Now we need 2 circles in each color just to hide it behind the flower itself. So what you can do is use the color sync option, which is at the top right here. And all I do is I just drag and drop the circles into the color so that we have 2 circles blue, 2 circles pink, and 2 circles purple. Now I do want to add some leaves to this and we're going to cut these on the felt as well. So what I'm going to do is go to upload image, and then browse again. Now these ones came from a different set of paper flowers, but they're still going to work really good for this. So you can kind of parts things together to make them work. So this is in my paper crafts and it's in my spring 0108 folder. And if I go to the SVGs, there's a whole section full of leaves. Now these leaves are going to be different depending on which ones you load. So you can just kind of choose whatever leaves you want. Now I'm going to tell you that these are going to show up as a transparent item, but when you load them in the design space, they're not transparent, so don't worry. I'll link everything I'm using below, but you can use your own leaves. But I'll show you really quick on this one that it's going to be solid when you load it in. See? Perfectly solid. And this one has writing on it as well, so go ahead and ungroup it and delete the writing. And you can resize these any size that you want. I think I'll go about 6 inches on these. I'm going to load a couple more leaves in and we can get ready to cut because I'm going to show you guys how to make sure everything fits. Now that I've brought in our other leaves, we can resize these as well to whatever size you want them to be. So just kind of pull them and resize. I will tell you that again, I cut these and I didn't love these fat leaves, but I wanted to show you them anyways because we did use them in the cutting process. So these are the leaves that we're going to use. Now we can just leave them black, it's okay, but we're going to make them green. So what I'm going to do is select them and just change them green just for visual purposes. And I do want a couple of each of these. So I think I did 6 when I cut them. So I'm just going to duplicate these a couple of times, mostly just to show you how to fit everything on to a, like the mats, because it's a little bit difficult because Cricut Design Space likes to make up its own thing. So let's go ahead. We've got our leaves, we've got our flowers, and let's click Make It. It's going to sort your projects into mats. Now it's going to assume that we're using a 12 by 12 size piece of material, but in this case, we're not. We're using the 9 by 12 material. So what I want to do is make sure that I go through and change all of my material sizes to 9 by 12. And you can find that right under the mat. So if you select the mat color and just change it to 9 by 12, it will change those mats for you. So it's really, really easy to do this, but it is super important that you do make sure that you check that. And then what you can do is you can move these dots around if you need to, or you can leave them where they're at depending on how you want them to cut. I like to try to save a little bit of felt by just moving them up into the flowers a little bit more. And I just like to check and see that everything fits. But look, we could absolutely fit this other leaf on this mat. There's totally room. So what I'm going to do is select the 3 dots in the corner and click Move Object. I'm going to select the mat that I think I can fit it on and click Confirm. Now it's not going to fit unless I move things around. But look at this. If I just move those over, it fits fine. Or I could turn it and have moved it over here and it would fit fine as well. So it's just personal preference, but it is a way to save materials and it's a great little hack that you can do to make sure that you save materials. Now all we have to do is click Continue. To set our base material, which is what we're going to be cutting on, there's a couple ways that you can do this. So if you're using the Cricut Explore, make sure your dial is set to custom because you can cut these on the Explore, but I would recommend doing some test cuts and things just to make sure that you find the right cut for you. I'm doing this on the Maker and I prefer it on the Maker because the rotary blade works great. But what I'm going to show you is a quick little trick to check pressures and things and find the right cut setting. If you click Browse All Materials, what you can do is down in this lower left-hand corner, click Material Settings. These are all in alphabetical order, so we know that we're using felt. So I'm going to scroll down to the F for felt and find all my felt settings. And right here, you can see that you have felt where it's going to cut 2 times on 148 pressure with a fine point blade. So what you'll see is the name of the material. Then you have next would be the pressure it's cutting on, how many times it's going to cut, and what tool it's going to use. I will personally tell you that the felt wool fabric is what I use because I prefer the rotary blade, and that pressure is perfect for the felt from Michaels. But do some test cuts before you commit to cutting all of this out, because that may not be the best setting for you and your machine. But what I'm going to do now is, now that I know which setting I need, just go ahead and exit this, click Browse All Materials, and you can just search the word felt. This is just a great way to make sure that you can see what the pressure settings are and your material setting. I'm going to select full felt wool fabric and click Done. It's going to tell me that I need to put my rotary blade into clamp B and that we can load our mat and get ready to cut. So I'll take you over to the machine and show you a couple little quick tricks to cutting felt. I'm going to show you guys a trick to using your fabric mat. So number one, I clean mine just using some alcohol-free baby wipes. These are awesome, super helpful. I always keep a set of baby wipes in my craft room. And then the second thing I want to show you is how to protect your mat a little bit. We're going to use some transfer tape. So all I want to do is just roll out my transfer tape onto my Cricut mat here. And this is the fabric grip mat again. And all I'm going to do, and this is a really sticky transfer tape. That's why I use it for this and really nothing else. It's just a little too sticky off the roll and I just don't love it. But what's great is for this stuff. So all I'm going to do is put it sticky side up onto my fabric mat. Now, if you just cleaned your mat, make sure you allow your mat to dry. And again, because this stuff is so sticky onto the roll, it doesn't really stick to my mat right away. I need to unroll it and then cut it off and stick it. But if you're using a less sticky on the roll type stuff, you won't have quite as much of a fight as I do. This is very sticky, as you can see. So all I'm going to do is just kind of figure out about where we need to cut it off. Looks pretty good. Should give us a general spot. Okay, that should be good enough. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut right across. I don't care if my line is straight. It really doesn't matter. And then all I want to do is make sure that I have this lined up pretty well with this side. And that it covers all of the grid to where our felt is going to stick down. And you just want to make sure it's stuck well down. And because it's so sticky, you're fine to touch it. It's not going to de-stick it so much that it won't, it'll ruin it. It'll be fine. Now that you have this stuck down, you're going to come in with your felt. I'll be using the pink felt first, so I'm going to go ahead and put that one down first. And again, you want to make sure you have it lined up really well with the top of your mat, and then you want to make sure that it's nice and straight all the way through. And as you're kind of pressing your felt down, you'll press that transfer tape down even more. So don't worry if it's lifting up a little bit. Your hands will be fine to press it down just a smidgen more. That looks pretty good. So the next thing that we'll need to do is change out our blade. Let's pull our machine in. And to change out your blade, all you simply need to do is open Cradle B, pull out your fine point blade, and replace it with your rotary blade, which is the one that has the gold gear on top. And this one does not have a number on the bottom. That's how you'll know this is the rotary blade versus the scoring wheel. Line up the gold gear and then just close the clamp for clamp B. We can go ahead and load our felt in. You want to make sure that you get it under the white rollers or the white tabs, and then just click load. Before I unload my mat, I just always check the cut. Now, it did cut the little circle off a little bit, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. We don't really need the full circle. We just need something to hold the flowers on. So I just check, make sure it cut. It did. Go ahead and unload. And when you're unloading, you just want to be aware that you don't want the transfer tape to come up with your design. So I'm going to go ahead and unload this, and we will finish cutting everything else. Once you've got everything done and cut, it looks like you have a really big mess on your hands. But because we use the transfer tape, our mess is far less than you would think. So I'm going to peel off this big section really quick. first. And then all of this is like small pieces because obviously it cut. So all I do is I just take this little red scraper that I got from 143 Vinyl and I just scrape off all of the transfer tape that's left behind. And you'll see how clean our mat actually is under this. It's crazy how much this saves you from having to clean your fabric mat all the time. Now that we have everything cut out and ready to go, we're gonna use two different types of glue because I always assume everyone has a hot melt glue gun, but if you don't, there's also this great product called Fabric Fusion from Aleene's, and honestly, without getting this glue, this project could be done for just a little more than $10 at Michael's. So it's a great option. This glue dries super permanent and crystal clear, so it's something I really love. I'm gonna use some tweezers. These are the stab and grabs from 143 Vinyl, but if you just have regular tweezers, they can be really helpful. And all you'll do is grab the base of your flower, and I like to use something really thin, so these tweezers are perfect for that. And then you're just going to spin your flower around itself. So basically just making a roll. You want to make sure that you keep the base of your flower even with itself, and you're just going to go around and roll the whole flower around. Once you get pretty far in that you have a decent base, you can usually just take your tweezers out, and I like to use my fingers to continue my roll. I don't love holding on to the tweezers as much as I just like to use my hand. Now, if you want, you can kind of glue as you go, but I like to loosen mine a little bit before I stick them together. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and roll this really all the way around. And again, just making sure that I try to keep the base as even and flat as I can with itself. And you're gonna start from the outside of the flower. So you see how we have this little dot? That is the base of our flower. So we want to keep that one at the front. So basically that's the last thing that you'll roll. So as you can see, you just roll around. So I'm going to finish rolling this one and then I'll show you guys how to glue it together. Now that we've made it to the base, you're just going to fold the base over and there is your flower. Now again, you can loosen this a little bit if you like. I think this is a little tight for my usual like. Actually, I don't know. I don't actually mind it. That looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Pretty good? I think that's pretty nice. But again, if you want to loosen it, all you need to do is just sort of pull out all your layers a little bit and just kind of brush them out. Now again, if you're really unhappy with it, you can always just unroll the whole thing. It's really up to you and how you want it to look. So the way I do this is I take my last line here, so about halfway down, and I will place a little bit of glue all the way around this edge here. And remember, this stuff dries clear. It's permanent, so don't worry if you splooge a little bit on the outside. It will dry clear. And then all I'm going to do is just roll my flower back around. And once I'm back to the part where I need to put the little base on, I will put some glue on the base, which is this little round end here at the bottom. And again, if you don't have a hot melt glue gun, this Fabric Fusion is awesome, and I love this stuff. I use it all the time. But I do prefer the hot melt glue when I do these. It's just a personal preference thing. And then all you gotta do is just press that down. You wanna make sure that's nicely held down. And then set this off to the side. Now I'm gonna do another one, and I'll do this one with the hot melt glue. So let me go ahead and make sure I put the cap back on my Fabric Fusion and set that over to the side. So we're gonna do this one next. This is a really fun one once it's rolled. I love this one, it's one of my favorites. So again, I'm just gonna take my tweezers and grab the end, and you wanna grab just a little bit in from the end and just twist. Now I did drop this one, so I do need to go back and retwist, but that's okay. All you do is just twist. So you're just gonna go ahead and twist all of these flowers, and then we can assemble them on to our wreath. Now, occasionally you'll get a flower that maybe you just don't love, which this is one of those. So I'm going to show you a quick trick. If we make a flower that we don't love, there's a fun flower that you can make without needing to actually use a Cricut. So what I'm going to do is fold this over And I'm just kind of going to see about how tall I want it. So I'm cutting it long, so it's going to be 12 inches long, and I just folded it over. And I'm just going to use my scissors. This does not have to be precise, I promise. This is not like you have to have a perfect straight cut. You don't have to really measure, just sort of eyeball. And then all you're going to do is cut slits. And I usually do about a ½ inch apart, but you can just sort of eyeball it. And then I usually do about 1 inch down, depending on how big you make your design, like how wide your flower is, all that stuff. So you're just going to cut a bunch of slits. And again, these are flowers, so they don't have to be perfect. If they're not straight, if they're not all the same size, it's okay. Nobody notices. And because they're supposed to be flowers, they're not normal in nature either. There's not like a specific like length or width for a petal in nature. So just go ahead and cut a bunch of slits down, and then I'll show you guys how to roll it. Once you have all of your slits cut, all you're going to do is, just like we rolled the other flowers, you're just going to roll this one. So you're just going to kind of roll it down. And while you're rolling, you can keep this kind of center part as even as you can. It's not, nobody's going to see the back, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if it is getting like a little out of hand, you can kind of mess with it. You could also have glued this down. I don't like to do that because I like to be able to kind of adjust where my little petals are, because you can see that they're all different lengths, which is fine, and I don't mind that. That's actually what I wanted, but I just want to be able to like adjust it a little bit if need be. Since this wasn't cut, you know, on a precision machine, I just cut it with scissors. This one isn't going to be as precise and quite as even as, say, the one from Cricut, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. That's what we wanted. So that look how cute. See, and now you have like a little like puffy flower. So I think that one looks better than that. So we're going to keep that. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm doing for this one is I'm going to glue the bottom here, just like this. Just going to fold that over, and then I'm going to glue the inside flap here, just to make sure that that stays down. And it's okay if I get some glue on the outside. Again, nobody's going to see this. And then what I like to do with the ones that I make, I put a glue surface on the bottom of them as well. That way it kind of seals their bottom. You can add a little circle if you want to, or a little square or whatever. That is not a requirement, but you can if it makes you feel better. It's up to you. So you can just sort of plop that right on there. All right, so while that one dries, let's go ahead and take a look at the leaves that we have. So I cut these, and they're way too big. I don't like them, so I'm going to put those to the side. But these ones, I think if we tuck behind some flowers, they will be super cute. And then we have these leaves here. And then our hoop. So it's really important. I have a silicone mat right here. Not only does it catch all the drippies from my lovely glue gun, which I do love this glue gun. If you guys don't have a cordless and you're looking for one, this Ryobi 18 volt is amazing. I love it. I would not trade it for the world. But what we'll do is get our hoop out, and we're just going to kind of lay out our flowers in the way that we kind of want them. This doesn't have to be exact, obviously. We can move them around, but just sort of figure out like what layout do we want to use. And keep in mind that like these ones are super floppy, so you may need to do something where these actually go along the edge of the hoop. So you may want to keep that in your head when you're kind of laying out your flowers, but you want to make sure all your flowers are on your hoop. And again, you don't have to use all of them. You can use one, you can use none. You can, you know, do whatever you want. And if you want, you can connect them together. So if you wanted to do something like with these two together, which I think actually would look cute because they came out really similar. And this one's a little bit like unsticky still, so I'm going to go ahead and throw a little hot milk glue on it. This was the one I did with the liquid fusion, and it's not fully dry, but I don't want to wait for it to dry. So if you don't want to wait for it to dry, add a little hot milk glue. It's totally fine. But I think I'm going to stick these two together. They look pretty similar, even though they were different flower types. And I think those would look really, really cute in the middle, kind of like that. And then we'll put like this little chrysanthemum-y looking one over here. I love the layout. So fun. And if you want to do some things where you like fold your petals or your leaves, it'll stiffen them up a little bit, and you can just do a little fold here at the base. So I think let's do that. Let's give this a little like divot down here. So all I'm doing is I put some hot milk glue there, and then I'm just going to fold it over on itself just at the tip, and then just hold it. It's not super hot, so you won't have to worry about like burning your fingers or anything, but do be careful. I think that looks good. I like that. It just gives it a little more shape, and it's going to make it just a little stiffer. But I really like the way we have this laid out. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, all right. Let me go ahead and do this leaf, and then we can add a couple leaves in here. All right, so now that we're kind of happy with our layout, I'm gonna move these off, and I'm gonna go ahead and pinch that last leaf, because I do want a pinch on that leaf, and we got a little dribble. So we're just gonna use that little dribble, and then we'll just pinch the bottom of this leaf, and I put a little too much on there, but that's okay. We've got a little dribble going. And again, I'll just pinch the bottom of this leaf together. Now this is where these circles are gonna come in handy. These are how we're going to attach the flowers to the wreath itself. But I will say that we may cut them down a little bit, and that's okay. We can totally do that. We can absolutely cut them down, because see, they're going to be a little bit big, and they don't need to be perfect circles. I just cut them so we'd have them, but they are a little bit big. So go ahead and trim them down. We're just going to kind of cut around them and trim them down. But this is how our flowers are going to be held on to our wreath here, our circle. So all I want to do is just make sure that I've cut it so that I can place it where nobody's going to really see the extra of it, because you can see like this flower will kind of hide it. And so we'll just cut these down real quick. So I'm going to lay down my flowers first, and then I'm going to put my leaves in. So we're going to start with this little purple guy, and I think I'll trim him down just a little bit more. He was a little bit big. And again, I can't cut a circle to save my life, so these are going to be the ugliest circles you've ever seen, but that's okay. It's fine. So what I'm going to do is lay this under here, and then I just want to see and make sure that I'm happy with that placement. I think that looks good. So what I'm going to do first is take some hot melt glue, and I'm going to put it on either side of the circle. Now I would say, if you can, and I didn't think about it, but you probably should put this on your silicone mat. You'll definitely want to do that so that you don't get hot melt glue all over your surface. And all I'm going to do is just put quite a bit of hot melt glue all over the felt that's on this, and you want to make sure that you kind of run it over the circle, and then bring your flower in and press your flower down onto that so that it's going to hold everything together. But that's why we put the silicone mat under, because if the glue decides to seep out at all, it'll seep onto the mat and not onto your table. So we said we'll do this one next, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one just a little fluff. I'm going to just fluff this one just a little. I think he needs a little fluff. Yeah, I think that looks good. So then we'll do the same thing, and again, we'll just lift this up, placing this onto our silicone mat, and we'll do the same thing, and you can kind of just put the hot melt glue on either side. You just want to make sure that it's held on to the ring, and that seemed to be the easiest way for me to do that when I did this, was to just make sure that it had kind of a hot melt glue like string on it. So, and then press this flower down into the ring and the felt circle, making sure that everything is staying straight, because that's the other thing. You want to make sure everything stays on your hoop in a straight way. So let's start on this side here, since this side is open. And I think I want this to kind of go over, I think, the wreath. I think I kind of want it to sit like that. And I don't even know that we're going to really necessarily need the circles, because when I did this, I used them. But the more I'm looking at the way that this is going to sit, I really don't know that we will, because we can actually just glue the petal or the leaf onto our flower base, because this one has such a, see how heavy and how tall this flower base is? We can honestly just glue it right here, and I think it'll sit really nicely. So that's what we're going to do with this purple one. I'm just going to run a bead of glue right here. And don't worry if you have little gluey strings, you can pull them off when you're done. But I do want to make sure that this is set down, and I'm going to use my little tweezers to press this side into the hot melt glue so that I don't burn my finger, because Lord knows I am the queen of burning my finger on hot melt glue. Few leaves from those longer stems of leaves, just to add a little pop of green throughout all of the different flowers. And I just attached those with a little bit of hot melt glue to the back of the flowers. This was a really fun project, and I really think that it looks like we spent way more than $15 on it.
This is a really easy thing that you can do with or without a Cricut, and you can do it for anywhere from $10 to $15 depending on if you need to get glue. I hope you guys had so much fun checking out this really fun felt flower wreath. I was so inspired to make this, seeing all the beautiful wreaths that people have on their front doors. If you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. And don't forget to follow me over on Instagram, where I post lots of fun crafts and fun things over there to check out, lots of previews of the different tutorials. I hope you all have a really fantastic day. And if you guys make this, make sure to tag me in all of the places. I would love to see what you guys do. Have a great day and happy crafting.